think of 100% performance obligation, every consumer to be served in the manner that is the policy intent at this point in time, the challenges for an evolving grid become that much bigger. The smaller the control area or the grid operation area which has to maintain integrity, the greater the challenge when you have a new animal in there which is renewables. And like the chairperson was introducing this, the strength of renewable energy is that it must run. That is also the challenge that it throws up, that because it must run, somebody else in the grid has to back down. And because he's expected to back down, in the first place, he's expected to be available with a capacity that will be run only for parts of the day, parts of the year, and so on. Which is where what we offer as an organization, and indeed other people who are traders or understand, is small solutions that allow stability to build up. So as recently as a week ago, the central regulator has come out with an order denying spot exchange or spot trading in renewables. That was a petition by the largest or the more successful of the exchanges in India. The point they're saying is that were it possible to do spot trading, you don't need to do this mechanism at all. The utilities could do it all by themselves. If renewables were lending, they had the character of lending themselves to that kind of predictability. So therefore, the alternative is evolving what is called OTC contracts, which is the space in which traders operate. And that's just a small part of the support we can give to the grid. What we have found, and just I can't say that we have done anything more than scratching the surface. We have an initiative called PTC Analytics. So we don't talk that much about it. But getting a forecast model at an 85% precision level is in itself a challenge. So I think it's the early days, first steps, but with other stakeholders also equally committed, I think we as an organization would like to continue supporting the cause of renewables and evolving products that allow the distribution companies eventually to hedge volume risk. So I speak also from a risk perspective whenever somebody is taking that thing. All we are able to do in the first place is volume risk. Pricing risk or the issue of operational risk are really derivatives of that. Let's first address the fact that physical supply of power is to be ensured, if not 100%, 85% or 90% of the time, with a spelt out and progressively tighter performance obligation. So that would be my little take on this subject, and I hope I have not exceeded my time. If that's it, so I'll conclude here, sir. Right. Thanks. Right.
Thank you very much. I think you have two very important points actually. First thing is the, of course, trading of renewables, which is new to everyone, and of course new to PTC. But they have been doing it so far successfully. And second thing, because of the variation, one thing has assumed tremendous importance, that is the forecast. And 85% accuracy is very good for that purpose. Otherwise, you see, if your forecasts are not correct in all respects, then it will be a problem that you have to double probably the capacity. They say that you, for a 300 gigawatt renewables, you have to keep a reserve of 50 megawatt of non-renewables in the circuit. No, that becomes almost impossible. It is not feasible. Not impossible, but it's not financially feasible. So that's a very, very important job that PTC has to do. And I think from the behalf of the nation, we thank them very much for the very good work that they are doing. Our next speaker would be Mr. Alekha Datta, who is the Fellow Electricity and Fuels Division of TERI. You saw Ajay, Dr. Ajay Mathur in the inaugural session. He comes from the same organization. Mr. Datta, please.
Yeah, good morning to you all. First of all, thanks a lot, Chairperson sir, for giving us opportunity to present our some innovations that we are currently doing for distribution sectors. As you rightly, in the meantime, I present, yeah, this one. So as you have correctly mentioned, our existing distribution network is quite old, is more than a century distribution network we are using. And currently that there is a transition in the electricity sector in this country. As you have rightly also mentioned, like because there are larger integration of renewable energy, and we have to see the opportunity for energy storage and smarter grids activity also. And there are many technical challenges when we are talking about large-scale renewable energy integration into the grid, as well as the rooftop segments into the distribution sector. So integration challenges also we need to focus upon. So some of the initiative, in TERI currently we are pursuing with different government organizations, as well as the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy and Ministry of Power. So I would like to highlight some of the innovations that currently we are undertaking, and I'll take not more than 5 minutes to do that. So this is one of the smart grid project, first of kind smart grid project that we have initiated in the state of Haryana, that is in Panipat, with support from New Energy Development Organization, Government of Japan. So in Panipat, the main objective of our smart grid pilot project was to reduce the AT&C loss from 36% to the less than a 2-digit number. So in Panipat, I'm not going into very details. So this is in Panipat city subdivision, we have identified 4 feeders where we are implementing 11,000 smart meters. Of course, this project has been led by Japanese company called Fuji Electric, and there are many other consortium also. So our main intention is to reduce the AT&C losses in that particular distribution company, that is Uttar Haryana Bijli Vitran Nigam Limited. So this is some of the technology that we're going to implement. We will be implementing smart meters with 3 types of communication technology. One is TWAX, one is RF mesh, and another is over GPRS. And we are also going to implement a SCADA system over there in Panipat. And as I mentioned, like our main intention is to reduce the losses, the AT&C losses over there, and of course do the demand side management activities as well. Similarly, I'll not taking into this some of the glimpse of our, and this project will be completed by September of this year. So we have already established our smart grid training center in Panchkula in Haryana, as well as we have established the smart grid control center in Panipat. So where this system would be automated, means operated from there. So, after the smart grid projects, so I'll move into the current initiative that we are helping with the many distribution companies as well as the smart cities in this country. So basically, the government is now promoting the 40 gigawatt of rooftop solar. So we are helping the government to aggregate the demands. As Dr. Ajay Mathur has mentioned, like if you are aggregating demands for LEDs for electric vehicles, similarly if you can approach the similar activity for solar rooftop, the cost will come down because there is enough demand in the market. So we are working with many of the smart cities like in Surat in Gujarat and Ahmedabad, Pune Municipal Corporation also. We develop a platform where we can aggregate the demands from various category of consumers for solar rooftop system, and then we can implement this installation through nodal agency as well as the Solar Energy Corporation of India also. So this is another initiative that we have recently taken for this sector. And the third one is, as Chairperson sir has correctly mentioned, there is a technical issues of large-scale RE integration as well as the rooftop. So currently we are undertaking one study under MacArthur Foundations. We have working with the state of Delhi, West Bengal, and Andhra Pradesh. So I am in Calcutta, so I'll focus more on West Bengal part. So here we are collaborating with WBACDCL. I think MD sir is not supposed to join us, Anyways, yeah. So this is one of the very recent initiatives. We will be seeing, we'll be looking after the technical challenges, what it could be, because government of West Bengal is also, as Honorable Minister said in the morning, so they are also looking after large-scale adaptation of solar rooftop in government buildings, in schools and colleges. So what will be the technical issues? So will be in our particular project. Currently, we'll be addressing that, and we'll give the recommendation to the distribution utility in the biggest one of the biggest distribution utility like WBSEDCL, like what the changes you required in the distribution network, both on the technical as well as the financial side. As Chairperson has mentioned, because our current electricity grid is quite aged old, and to the integrate rooftop solar into the existing system. So there are many, the protection schema has to be modified, and because there is a possibility of reverse power flow from rooftop system. So this kind of studies, the technical challenges or technical issues will be addressed under this initiative, and we will provide the recommendation to the WBSEDCL as well as the other selected distribution companies also. So very recently, we have also received one project under India-US Energy Dialogue. Basically, we got a grant from Department of Energy in Government of US to demonstrate the energy storage capability along with the rooftop systems. So this is one of the projects that we are going to implement with the BRPL, that is BSES Rajdhani Power Limited in Delhi. So we are going to implement in grid scale energy storage, sir, with that particular utility. Our main objective is to do the peak savings in Delhi, because as Dr. Ajay Mathur sir has mentioned in the morning, there is a peak in the night time as well where the solar is not available. So we want, and in the daytime, when the solar is available, we'll charge the battery at a lower tariff, and we'll use that stored energy in the evening time. So that is one of our recent initiatives. That is, the couple of initiatives that TERI has undertaken in the power sector of this country. So I'd like to have able to present you in a manner. So if you have any question, maybe sir, we can have a discussion during our course of action. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think you touched almost all the points. That is supposed to be the theme of the particular session, including the renewable integration plus the problem of harmonics and others when you attach them, and also rooftop. Rooftop is coming in a big way, and in a big way when something comes, normally that results in good. But short term, there are lots of problems. So rooftop might also create lots of problems as we go on. But I'm sure that we'll be able, as I said, we should be able to overcome that problem. Our last speaker of the day will be, unfortunately, Mr. Rajesh Pandey can't be here because he is suddenly being called in a meeting. So our last speaker will be Dr. Mohsen Asadi, who is a professor of Faculty of Science and Technology, University of Stavanger in Norway.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and also thank you for the invitation to this event. I was asked to give a presentation about the flexible generation in 20 minutes. So yesterday they told me that it might be critical, so think about that, to deliver it in 15. I said, okay, that might be. And then it was another gentleman who told me that 15 means about 7.5 minutes. So we shall see how much we can talk about that and what is actually the issues behind the flexible generation. So it is at least my plan to sort out a little bit about what is flexible generation, what is frequency control, how is it connected to renewable energy, or frequency control, flexible generation, grid stability, same things with different names, and what are the possibilities to retrofit the existing systems, or do we really need to build completely new ones? So to get there, let us to jump directly into where are we, because it is the most important question to sort out. Where are we standing? What is our assets? Where our, let's say, plans grid capabilities, etc., and where are we heading, and how we can mix those two things. I would say that the grid which is used today is largely based on fossil fuels and some hydro where it is available. So the grid as such is a connector of those generators in those different power plants, so they are all communicating with each other. The economic life of the plants which we are building, it was also mentioned today, is about some 30, 40 years, even maybe more for some. So the question is, if we do investments or we have done investments, how can we, let's say, use those existing power plants? Is it a stranded asset or is it a capability or a resource which we can use? So finally, everybody are talking about flexibility generation, it's about the grid stability, frequency, etc. It is important to think about that the generators, which are delivering 50 hertz electricity as it is, this means that they are rotating with 3,000 revolutions per minute. So these huge masses are generating a kind of stability in the grid as well, because you can think of a very big body in motion. To stop it or to accelerate it, it requires certain time, and that time gives some kind of stability to the grid as it is. So the opposite to that is the renewable energy, most of them delivered as a DC, connected to our AC grid by converters, so it means that there is no rotating mass, and because of that, the changes become much more speedy, and then you need to control them, which means that the rotating masses are not in place, so the system becomes even more unstable. That is the major issue that we need to think about when we are thinking about plants which are, let's say, controllable today, but maybe tomorrow it becomes a little bit more difficult when we have intermittent renewables coming in and going out, and then we need to balance this grid and maintain 50 hertz or maybe 60 hertz in different countries, a little bit of different systems, but it is something around that. It is about 3,000 or 3,600 RPM. So, how does the system look like today? Today it looks like this. We do have conventional power plants on one end, we do have the consumers on the other end, and we do have a continuous change of the demand or load on the system. So we need to manage this in a way that the sum of that becomes zero. The produced electricity is consumed immediately and not stored in general, so to say. So we can show that as such. We do have the higher level, the high voltage level, we do have the power plants on top. They are delivering the electricity to the intermediate level and then distributed to the end users at low voltage level. So this is where we are starting from. This is today, and we have this rotating mass and control over the frequencies. If we think of the grid as this big ring, it is the high voltage level, and then we do have the distribution downwards to the low voltage and the users there. You can think of that the generators in the grid are representing a number of units, just like this bike, and think of that there are a number of guys sitting on that one and running that in a constant speed on the road. What's going to happen next is maybe that we're going to have a higher load on the grid, which means that they are hitting, let's say, inclination, so they have to work harder to maintain the same speed. It is exactly what happens with the grid as well. The load goes up, then we need to push in more power into the grid, so to say. However, there is a number of units connected, so one and each of them take a share of this load. If we have a small grid with few power plants, then it means that a bigger share is put it on one and each of them. And thinking of that one of these guys in the back maybe get tired and doesn't manage to pump more. So it means that he just let it be and go out of the system, sitting just there, don't push the pedal anymore. Then it means that the rest have to take the rest of the load, so to say. And if another one goes out and then another one, finally maybe they are getting there that nobody can manage to keep the speed, which means the frequency in the grid, then it means that we're going to hit the instability level, and then all of them going to go out, and then we're going to have a blackout. That is the situation. So controlling the grid and all the discussions, what is happening from the today to tomorrow, is presented with this picture, which shows the arrow going the other way up. It means that the production will be with the prosumers, as it is called, at the lower level, at the houses, the roofs, I don't know, the smaller wind turbines, etc. And they're going to put in the power into the grid. And you can think of the instability issues that can be created because the power generators, consumers, and also control of the grid, all of that has to be handled and managed in the same time. So what we are ending up is that we're going to have the blue line here. It is the situation today. The red line is in those countries who have a certain amount of intermittent renewable implemented. And the black one is a level where we're going to have a little bit more of the renewable. And what does it show? It is the instability of the control of the grid. It means that if we are losing, or let's say, cannot maintain the frequency with maximum 10% deviation, then it means that we're going to have a blackout. That is the problem. And we have to solve it in the end of the day. So this is the situation of future. We do have conventional plants, we do have the consumers and the renewables, intermittent renewables as well. All of them has to contribute to bring the deviation to zero, ideally. So conventional plants, they are based on non-renewable fuels. So it means that we still need them, and they cost. We have maybe built a lot of them already. They are in place, and we have to be, let's say, relying on them still. But those who have been built those plants, invested their money in, they have been calculating economically on certain number of hours of operation so that they have a certain income to pay back their investment. If we do produce a lot of renewables and still need those guys to come in when it is a beautiful, let's say, winter day, it is sunshine, but previously, the day before, we have had a snowstorm and we have snow on the roofs and all our solar panels are covered, no wind, and we are there. Beautiful day, you come out and the sun shining, blue sky, but no electricity. What do we do then? So then it means that we still are dependent on those conventional ones, fossil-based, but maybe they are running only 100 or a couple of hundred hours per year instead of thousands of hours per year. Who's going to pay for it? That is also an important element to bring in mind, that we need to have a solution that is economically viable, politically supported, socially accepted. All these elements need to be covered and matched in the same time. So can we retrofit the plants? I jump quickly now because the time is going, so it means that we will need different time spans for control of the grid. We have the millisecond, second, minute level, and weeks and days when it comes to backup power. So given that, then it means that we need a different kind of mixture of different kind of technologies. And paying for all of them and having them all available all the time for a secure and safe production, distribution, and consumption, that means huge amount of resources. And that is from time to time forgotten in the equation. So this is an example that says that the major conventional plants are the combined cycle plants with natural gas based on gas turbines. Gas turbines are already flexible, so they cannot be more flexible. So flexible generation cannot be implemented in the existing gas turbines. If you want to do it more flexible, then you have to develop a new gas turbine which is more flexible. Then somebody has to pay for it as well. When it comes to the coal power plants, there is some opportunities there. I jump over some of those, but those figures given there, it is a real plant in Germany, which means that it is a coal plant which needed 400 seconds to be able to provide the, or let's say, the challenges of the load change. By doing certain German engineering approach, which is the good and strong one, they managed to improve this in that level that they reduced the time to 18 seconds. But it was still a lot of work, investment, etc. There is retrofit opportunities, but the thing is not coming by itself just for free. So where are we today and where are we heading? It is about rotating mass in the grid, which gives stability. If they are out, then the stability is going to be lower, and the variation of production and consumption and management of all these things requires a lot of work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Sadi. I think that was quite a knowledgeable lecture, and I think one of the most important points he mentioned is overall system of flexible generation. But after that, that it's difficult also because of the fact that you have to take so many factors into account, including political, which is the most difficult, because the vote bank has to be satisfied. Technology has to satisfy also the vote bank before it becomes acceptable to the politicians, unfortunately. Particularly so in our country. I'm sure in Norway also it's the same thing. So thank you very much for that. All right, we have a little time. We have surpassed our time, but I'm not considering that because we started 25 minutes late, unfortunately. So please now open for a few questions. Please just be very brief. Just the question, nothing else. Before that, your name and organization. Who will be the first to break the ice? Yes, please. Can you have the mic, please? There. Here. Yes.
My name is Soumitra Malik from ISWBM, Calcutta. I'm not very sure if I've understood your presentation. It's very profound and difficult, Mr. Asadi. But I just wanted to ask a simple question, which is, when we think of the distribution of, I wouldn't say electricity, energy in general, yesterday many people talked, distinguished people talked